Nathan Zegura here with another special position review edition of the 2-Minute Drill brought to you by University Hospitals. Today we're going to look at the Browns wide receiver room, and while we've seen some continuity in other position groups, this is one where there actually are some questions on what things will look like in 2021. Let's go back to 2020 first, so we'll start with the starters. Odell Beckham Jr. Season cut short in Week 7 against Cincinnati with a torn ACL. The good news is he is ahead of schedule on his recovery, under contract with the Browns for 2021, and Beckham showed his ability to make big plays. That out and up against Cincinnati, the big run against the Dallas Cowboys to ice at the 50-yard end around. So he showed that game-breaking, playmaking ability. He'd scored 3 times in that game against the Dallas Cowboys. 4 touchdowns on the season for Beckham, and he definitely brings that take the top off the defense home run threat that this team needs at wide receiver. Then there's his running buddy and best friend Jarvis Landry, the heart and soul of the Browns. Guy's been to the Pro Bowl in 5 of the last 6 seasons. Jarvis, this year, he was your leading receiver on the Browns. Jarvis would have 72 catches, 840 yards, and score 3 touchdowns as a receiver this season. And who can forget the big touchdown catches he had in the playoffs, scoring both against the Steelers on a 40-yard catch and run and scoring against the Chiefs. So the big-time star only got better in the biggest moments. And Jarvis also did something that hasn't been done in a long, long time. He's the first Brown since Eric Metcalf in his rookie season back in 1989 to throw a touchdown pass. He did so to Odell Beckham Jr. against Dallas. To run for a touchdown, he did that in Week 17 in that playoff clinching win over the Pittsburgh Steelers, and to catch a touchdown, he did that many times this season. Jarvis, just a remarkable guy and a great blocker as well. His downfield blocking key to what the Browns were able to do as a running attack this season. And then there's Hollywood Higgins, and what a story, what a journey Hollywood Higgins had in 2020. Opening the season inactive, and then when he finally got called into duty and saw in Week 7 against Cincinnati his role really expand, he answered and was one of the best and most efficient receivers in the entire NFL. Hollywood Higgins would have a monster season this year. He'd have 52 catches, 599 yards, and 4 touchdowns, second most on the team. He had a career-high 16.2 yards per catch. He was one of the most efficient receivers in the NFL at nearly 12 yards per target and just over 2 yards per route run. And again, he started the season inactive, and yet Hollywood was a part of some of the biggest plays the Browns had this season. Who can forget his big catch on 3rd down against the Bengals that helped set up the touchdown to Donovan Peoples-Jones. He was reliable. He was always open. He caught everything, but he is an unrestricted free agent. And I know everybody here would love to see Hollywood walking the red carpet wearing that orange and brown for the rest of his career. The Browns also got a nice contribution from 6th-round pick Donovan Peoples-Jones. Now, Donovan Peoples-Jones didn't catch a pass in the NFL until Week 7 against the Bengals, and his first ever catch, a little trivia for you, was from Jarvis Landry. Now, he'd go on to make 2 catches on the final drive, the game winner against Cincinnati, including the one that did win the game, a 24-yarder from Baker Mayfield. It's probably the best play of the Browns season this year. We first saw Donovan Peoples-Jones against the Dallas Cowboys, came in and showed a lot of ability as a blocker. He didn't catch a pass for about another month, but boy, when he did, he started to make plays. He would finish the year with 14 catches for 304 yards and 2 touchdowns. He averaged a ridiculous 15 yards per target and 21.7 yards per catch. In addition to being a great receiver, a great blocker, he was also the team's punt returner. And I think Donovan Peoples-Jones, this is a guy whose arrow is certainly pointing up as the rookie looks to have the benefit of a full offseason entering in his 2nd season in the NFL. Cadarro Hodge set career highs this year in receiving with 11 catches for 180 yards, averaging 16.4 yards per catch. He's also a great special teams contributor and is a restricted free agent this offseason. Jamarcus Bradley was an undrafted free agent with the Browns this season who spent some time on the active roster. Remember that crazy Week 16 game with no receivers? It was Bradley who stepped in and led the Browns with 5 catches for 60 yards. And wide receiver coach Chad O'Shea told me he thinks Bradley has a bright future and is somebody that the Browns will look to develop. Now, in addition to Bradley, in terms of developmental prospects, the Browns also have 3 receivers under contract headed into next year. Ryan Switzer, formerly of the Pittsburgh Steelers, who's an excellent slot receiver and kick returner. Derek Willis, who played with the Browns back in 2018 and brings some size at 6'4", as well as Alexander Hollins, who was signed to the Browns this season off of the Minnesota practice squad, where he was in 2019 with the Vikings, and of course, head coach Kevin Stefanski. The Browns also, in addition to Hollywood Higgins, have 3 veteran pending free agents in this wide receiver room. Taiwan Taylor, the former third-round pick who spent a lot of time active this year before suffering a season-ending knee injury, along with JoJo Natson. Remember, Natson was brought in to be the team's return, but a torn ACL early in the preseason ended his season this year and never got a chance to play for the Browns. The former Akron Zip has a lot of speed and could be somebody that they look at to help in the return game and also help stretch the field and run some of those jet sweeps, etc. And finally, Marvin Hall will be a free agent. Spent some time on the active roster. He started that game against the Jets, catching 1 pass in that one. So that's a look at the Browns receiver room. Now, this is the one room on offense where there could be some changes. And again, the big question, it revolves around Hollywood Higgins, the biggest name, the pending free agent who has been nothing but great with his quarterback, Baker Mayfield. They have that unspoken chemistry, and we certainly want to see him, as I said earlier, walking that red carpet in orange and brown for years to come. Thanks for tuning in to another special position review edition of the 2-Minute Drill presented by University Hospitals.